Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde here in Lagos, Nigeria. We begin in Sudan, where the army and the rival paramilitary rapid support forces RSF are engaged in a direct and intense scuffle near the Algeria oil refinery in Khartoum. The army announced that it had advanced towards the strategically placed refinery as part of a multi-pronged offensive aimed at regaining territory in the region. Fighting erupted simultaneously in El Fasher, where earlier this week tensions flared when the RSF issued a 48-hour ultimatum demanding the army withdraw from its last stronghold. The Sudanese army responded at the expiration of the ultimatum with airstrikes targeting RSF positions. Authorities in South Sudan have ordered telecommunications companies to restrict access to social media for a minimum of 30 days. According to the government, the action is necessary to curb the spread of disturbing content related to the ongoing violence against South Sudanese individuals in neighboring Sudan. Images allegedly depict militia groups committing acts of violence against the South Sudanese in Gezira state, in response to which there was a night of violence during which shops owned by Sudanese traders were vandalized. The temporary restriction, which may be extended for up to 90 days, took effect at midnight on Thursdays. Over in the Democratic Republic of Congo, hospitals are overwhelmed with work in Goma. Medical staff are struggling to cope with the influx that have set up emergency tents around the hospital premises to accommodate the wounded. At the Bethsaida Hospital, casualties from the ongoing M23 rebel offensive continue to grow, with victims recounting harrowing tales of survival. A survivor, Jeanette Matondo, describes how a bomb struck her group as it fled the besieged town of Mubambiro. She says everyone around her died. Ms. Matondo herself lost her 2 children in the explosion. The M23 is the latest group of ethnic Tutsi-led insurgents to rise up against Congolese forces. The group, named after the March 23 date of a 2009 accord that ended a previous Tutsi-led revolt, accuses the government of not living up to the peace deal to fully integrate Congolese Tutsis into the army and the administration. After seizing the town of Minova on Tuesday this week, M23 fighters continued their advance into the Sake town, that's about 20 kilometers from Goma. Shopkeepers have had to close down their businesses and marketplaces are deserted as uncertainty over the rebels' next move paralyzes economic activity. Newly sworn-in U.S. President Donald Trump signed a number of executive orders this week, which include, among other things, an exit from the World Health Organization. The orders signed on Monday, January 20, means the U.S. will leave the apex health body in 12 months and stop all financial contributions to its work. So far, the U.S. has been the largest contributor to the World Health Organization, with a donation to the budget of $1.28 billion for just the 2022 to 2023 biennium, including $218 million in assessed contributions, $1.02 billion in voluntary contributions, and $47 million in contributions to a contingency fund for emergencies. China, in comparison, contributed a total of $157 million for the same period.
So we paid $500 million to World Health when I was here, and I terminated it. China, with 1.4 billion people, we have 350 to pay. Nobody knows what we have because so many people came in illegally, but let's say we have 325. They had 1.4 billion. They were paying 39 million, we were paying 500 million. It seemed a little unfair to me. No, NATO has to pay more money. NATO has to pay 5%. We are We're in the Ukraine war by $200 billion more than NATO. It's ridiculous because it affects them a lot more. We have an ocean in between. Spain is very low. And yet, are they a BRICS nation?
What?
They're a BRICS nation, Spain. You know what a BRICS nation is? You'll figure it out. But, and if the BRICS nations want to do that, that's okay, but we're going to put at least a 100% tariff on the business they do with the United States. You know what the BRICS is, right? You guys know.
Brazil.
You know what I'm saying, right? You know what I'm saying. Right now, I think we have a lot. I think North Korea turned out to be good. I was very friendly with him. He liked me. I liked him. We got along very well. And they thought that was a tremendous threat. Now, he is a nuclear power, but we got along. I think he'll be happy to see him coming back.
Back here in Nigeria, the Lagos state government has asked residents to donate blood voluntarily to help address the growing shortage of safe blood in the state. The State Executive Secretary of Blood Transfusion Service, Dr. Bodunrin Oshikomaya, made this comment during a sensitization campaign in Lagos Island. She says Lagos has recorded over 20 million blood donors, but only 5 to 8% are voluntary. Dr. Oshikomaya highlights the critical need for more voluntary blood donors and encourage residents of the state to join the life-saving mission, which aims to achieving 100% voluntary blood donation as recommended by the World Health Organization.
Lagos State senior health workers, as well as officials of the State Blood Transfusion Service, are on the streets of Lagos Island to create awareness about voluntary blood donation. They move from General Hospital, distributing flyers to individuals, educating the people on the importance of voluntary and regular blood donation to those in need. Leading the advocacy work is the Executive Secretary of the State Blood Transfusion Service, Dr. Bodunrin Oshikomaya, who says the annual exercise is aimed at increasing the pool of voluntary donors in the state and can only be done by individuals between the ages of 18 and 65 years.
This month, the annual activity is to achieve people's awareness, just as the name implies, just for you to know why you need to donate blood, what you need to do to donate blood, for you to be able to make a good decision in being a voluntary blood donor. So we are just trying to increase, on the long run, the numbers of voluntary donors, because we do know that voluntary donors are the individuals that maintain and sustain the blood banks anywhere in the world.
A mobile clinic for blood donation is available. Some of those who have imbibed the habit of service to humanity walk in to support the exercise. Surprisingly, one of them has donated more than 80 times just to save lives.
I finished my university more than 10 years ago, and almost every year. At least last year, for instance, all my schedule every 3 months, so I do keep tab of my next period to donate. So almost every 3 months, ideally, I know I'm qualified to donate.
I noticed that most time when patients have got to the hospital, one thing leads to the other, and they will say they will need some blood. And probably it's not from them particularly, they need the blood from a donor. So I've done it for my son, I've done it for friends. So I said, okay, let me go and do voluntarily also.
The team also visits the Lagos State Health Service Commission, where the chairman of the commission, Dr. Atinuke Onaiga, assures of safety for both donors and recipients.
For those who want to consume, I think they should erase that from their minds, because there are more than enough innovations, more than enough technology that excludes out any of those diseases that they are afraid of before they are given. Once anything is seen, it is discarded, and they can be assured of that safety. Now, when it comes to those who want to give it, I don't see why they should be stigmatized, because they're doing such a great thing, and they do not need to get stigmatized for such a thing. So I think they should rest their fears, and they should make sure that they cooperate with a God-ordained thing that we are to save lives. It's not just the spiritual lives, but even physically when people do need them.
As the Lagos State Blood Transfusion Service continues its sensitization, the message remains clear. Donating blood is not just a personal health choice, but a communal responsibility that ensures no life is lost due to lack of blood.
Let's take you back to one of our earlier stories. Africa's leading public health officials are raising concerns about the potential impact of the U.S. pulling out of the World Health Organization, the potential impact on Africa. Well, joining us now to talk more on this is virologist and Executive Director, Global Health and Infectious Diseases Control Institute, Nasarawa State University, Dr. Agiala Ishaku. Dr. Ishaku, thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year to you as well. Well, let's begin with what you think of the U.S. exiting the World Health Organization. Well, it's not the first time it's not the first time we're seeing U.S. President Donald Trump threatening to do that. Now they have 12 months. What is that potential impact on Africa and Africa's health?
Yeah, definitely. It's not a very good policy by the United States of America to withdraw from the WHO. This is because it will create a very huge impact on low-income countries and sub-Saharan African region. This is because if US pulls out of the WHO, it shows that US is going to be in isolation. And you know that there are two types of contribution to the WHO. There is a mandatory contribution by members nations and also a voluntary donation by countries and organizations. So you have organizations like Gavi, you have organizations like Belinda Gates Foundation, you have countries like Germany, like Japan, like China, and United States of America that contributes hugely to WHO. Now, the withdrawal of the WHO, United States of America from WHO, will show that the funding will be shrink. So you know that quite well WHO was on ground during the fight of COVID-19 and other pandemic diseases like Ebola. They are also fights towards HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria, which is quite endemic in sub-Saharan Africa. That will be impaired. Even funding, PEPFAR funding through WHO, funding through World Bank, coming for surveillance activities, it will be impaired. And one of the devastating impact is that United States of America will not be able to coordinate data sharing in the WHO. You know, data sharing are quite key. It's from data sharing that you go about getting epidemiological data for vaccine development and other biologics. And so United States of America will not be interested in getting data that will inform vaccine development and also production of immunologics. So definitely there will be a huge impact on sub-Saharan Africa. But because I'm also coming from the academic background, funding for research and development will be shrink.
Yeah, talking about funding, Dr. Ishaku, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention had already said, Africa needs to find alternative sources of funding. Where would that be, these alternative sources?
Yeah, so we have multinational companies. So the concept of resource mobilization and co-creation is quite key when it comes to funding of health. Let me share with you, and within some seconds, there are some of my postgraduate students that did their research on alternative funding for health financing, and they look at the telecom subcharged, and they came up with an economic model, a public health economic model, that only in Nigeria, based on the number of subscribers for telecom, be it call, be it text messages, be it data usage. If we take 50 kobo from most of these subcharge, Nigeria, based on the economic model that we have seen, and it's a reality, Nigeria is going to generate over 350 billion naira, which the funding is going through the National Health Insurance Agency. Now, time has come for the African continent to look inward, how it can be able to raise resources to cater for its health emergencies and response. So we have multinational companies. So I'm looking forward that we'll look inward. What is the corporate social responsibilities of multinational companies in terms of health? What are the corporate social responsibilities of banks in terms of health funding? And I'm also looking forward that we can have a health bank. If we can have a bank of industry, we can have bank of agriculture. What stops us from having health bank where health infrastructures can be built using resources that are co-created and they are domiciled in health bank. So I think going forward, we need to look inward. If we have Belinda Gates Foundation, we have Gavi Alliance coming up to fund WHO to fund research in Africa. What stops us from having the likes of Aliko Dangote, Mike Adenuga funding research, Tony Nomelu funding research, coming up with health initiatives to fund research? And I strongly believe that the way to go is to look internally, to co-create an envelope wallet for health funding, not only health funding, but for funding for most of the issues that we are contending with in Africa.
Thank you so much, Dr. Akiala Ishaku, Global Health and Infectious Disease Control Institute, the Executive Director at Nasarawa State University. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you so much for having me, and have a rewarding weekend ahead, listeners and viewers. Thank you.
We'll continue with reports coming from the ongoing World Economic Forum in Davos. Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima has assured the international community of a safe investment environment in the country. The Vice President gave the assurance during a session on global risk report at the forum, reiterating Nigeria's dedication to harnessing the potential of its youth through investing in education and advancing smart agriculture. Channels Television State House correspondent Emperor Simon reports.
And, the opinions, the collective opinions... On the fourth day of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Vice President Kashim Shettima joins experts to discuss the 2025 Global Risks Report.
Mali, nothing good comes out of it.
The report highlights an increasingly volatile landscape marked by accelerating geopolitical, technological, and environmental challenges. It also shows that state-based armed conflict is topping the list of 10 top global risks with 23%.
35, there will be 65 million global talent deficits.
However, the Vice President believes that Africa holds ample opportunities for the world, despite the challenges confronting the continent.
Even in the best of times, we are always facing existential threats. It's very, very terrible. But efforts are ongoing through different platforms like the ECOWAS, like the multinational joint task forces, to come up with robust solutions to the challenges facing us. But most importantly, my own perspective is that we should have a holistic approach.
He reaffirms Nigeria's resolve to embrace innovation and empowerment, particularly through education, gender-focused initiatives, and smart agriculture to propel its economy into the fourth post-industrial revolution.
Gender empowerment initiatives, investments in education, in healthcare, in infrastructure. Once we create hope for the youth, once we create hope for a better tomorrow, this sanity madness will evaporate, because we are a very young continent. Do you know the average age of the Nigerian nation is 16.9?
16, yeah.
And this anticipated demographic bulge, we have the window of transforming them into demographic dividends.
Other speakers harp on the need to embrace technology, especially artificial intelligence, and also for countries to address the issues of gender inequality and high tariffs on trade, particularly by developed nations. From Davos in Switzerland, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Still at the World Economic Forum, the Director General of the World Trade Organization is concerned that trade wars would have catastrophic consequences for global growth. She was speaking in a session on trade where US President Donald Trump's tariff threats were discussed. Some believe President Trump should address income inequality rather than look to tariffs to solve political problems in the United States.
If we have tit-for-tat retaliation, whether it's 25%, tariff 60%, and we go to where we were in the 1930s, we're going to see double-digit global GDP losses. Double-digit. That's catastrophic. Everyone will pay. Everyone. And the poor countries will pay even more. Second, if we just do not quite tit for tat, but even a version of that. Let's say we break into two trading blocks and, we're not trading across the world, and we layer in trade policy uncertainty. We've done that work too. We're going to lose 6.4% of real global GDP in the longer term. That's like losing the economy of Japan and Korea combined.
Well, also in attendance at the forum is Botswana's new president, Duma Boko. He says he hopes to clinch a long-delayed sales pact with industry giant De Beers as early as today. Diamond-rich Botswana and De Beers agreed on a new pact in 2023, which would see the government's share of diamonds from the Debswana joint venture gradually increase to 50% over the next decade. But it was never signed under President Boko's predecessor, Mogwetsi Masisi. Debswana currently sells 75% of its output to De Beers, in which the country owns a 15% stake. Botswana is the world's leading diamond producer by value. President Boko also spoke about the urgent need to address youth unemployment in his country and the need to diversify the country's economy.
And it is to be expected that Botswana and its partner will negotiate and try and reach some sensible agreement that serves both parties. We've had a long partnership with De Beers, and we hope that that partnership continues into the future, and we look forward to that happening. On most of the issues we are in agreement. I think it was just tidying up. Hopefully we should get it over the line. We need, as countries that are reliant on mining to a great extent, to begin to deploy our energies and resources in beneficiation in country. And this is critical because it then enables the country to create jobs and to export finished products. The West has every reason to play its part in Africa. Because if it doesn't, there are others who will want to play some part. We have China in the wings, and it's seeking as well with its Belt and Road Initiative to exert influence on Africa. And so there's every reason to have some countervailing presence. And that countervailing presence can only come from the West. And the West is alive to this. I think they are astute enough to realize that they can't cede the space. And when they come into that space, it must be on fair and equitable terms, because that is what Africa is demanding.
And finally, on the program, long-awaited snow has brought joy to both visitors and local business owners in Cheria Mountains in the Algerian city of Blida. Sledding and snow games are now the order of the day, while those renting winter equipment or selling food are enjoying a steady flow of customers. Residents like 28-year-old tea and nut seller Fatia Yawi says, like many other store owners in the mountainous area, they are happy because their jobs depend on the snowy winter season. People come from various cities in Algeria to enjoy the winter activities, from sledding and to getting on the cable cars. And that's the program for today. Thank you so much for watching Network Africa. I'm Layo Olarinde. Have a lovely weekend.